Good morning, everybody. Monday morning drive-in. Hope everybody had a good weekend at church on Sunday, in the church building, not watching somewhere on a video or on streaming, but in the building, being able to be around God's people. If you weren't, you should be. Go to church. It's good for you. What I wanted to talk about this morning is the colossal, huge shift that happened in the thinking of all of the world before, during, and after the life and ministry, the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. What am I talking about? Up until the time of Jesus, the world was dominated by one civil power to the next. Starting off, for example, with Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and then finally pagan Rome, which was in power and over the area, quite a bit of areas, and Judea was under the power or dominance of the empire of Rome at the time when Jesus was born. So why does this matter? Everything up until the time of Jesus Christ was whoever had the most strength could dominate the world and bring everybody else in subjection. So the mindset was strength and power. Jesus shifted this thinking in the biggest way you could possibly imagine. When Jesus came to the world and began to proclaim the Word of God was not based on who was the strongest or the most powerful. The mindset that Jesus brought was, you need to live a life of sacrifice, a willing sacrifice for the sake of others. This is such a huge mindset difference. Not everybody picked up on it, but that church of the first century, he was teaching them, whoever is going to be greatest among you or the biggest among you, he is going to be your servant. Jesus himself represented the mindset of, even though he was the Son of God, he didn't hold to that and didn't allow himself to be exalted as a king, but he came in low as a servant, as someone humble, as somebody willing to live and sacrifice for the sake and the benefit of others. And what he was telling people is, this way of thinking is the only way people can live and coincide together in peace. Not trying to dominate by power, not trying to get on top, not trying to destroy others, but the point of sacrifice is preferring others and lifting others up above yourself. If everybody in a society is lifting everybody else, that's an eternal society. Jesus was speaking to them the words of an eternal mindset. You are called to lay down your desires and your whatever it is that you want, so that somebody else could be blessed. John 15, he said, greater love hath no man than that he will lay down his life for his friends. 1 John 3, starting off in about 15 or 16, he says, this is love. I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, but he's talking about, he's kind of referencing, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, but he shifts it a little bit. He says, this is love, that you give yourself or your life for others. And then he goes on to say, in about the 17th, 18th verse, all the way to the end, he says, whoso hath this world's good, and doesn't help somebody in need, and shutteth up his bowels of compassion from him, how dwelleth the love of God in him? So he's talking about the love of God flowing through a people who willingly, and this has to be done willingly. You cannot compel or legislate people to become a sacrifice. It has to be done willingly or it doesn't work. And Jesus was that first willing sacrifice. Those 12 apostles were the next willing sacrifices, and they laid down their lives for those people in that first century church. And it started to create its own life and its own energy. That's why that church had so much power, because it was full of people who were living sacrifices, living for the benefit of others. 1 Corinthians 10, I think it's the last verse. Paul says, the things that I do for the sake and the benefit of others, not for myself. This is the shift that Jesus brought to the world, and this is the only way that any of us will ever know peace, is when we lay down our lives for our friends, for the people around us. God bless you. Have a great Monday.